Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get the meeting started. You all have been kind enough to show up on time, and we want to respect your time, so we're going to get the meeting started. My name is Jamila Jordan, and I work for a firm called MIG, and I'll be your facilitator tonight. And I want to go ahead and call up Mr. Mayor to the stage here to give us some brief welcome and opening remarks.
You're all welcome to come right on up to the front. It's like, okay, I know everybody spreads out, but I know many of you in the audience, and I'm grateful that you've come tonight. I know many of you have different levels of knowledge about what we're considering doing in our communities. As you may know, the cities of Cupertino, Mountain View, Sunnyvale have all in the last year or two adopted climate action plans. And we've done that because we see an imperative in putting our cities on a carbon diet. We think it's important that we be leaders in a brave new world where we understand that we are making an impact in the world, and we're innovators in Silicon Valley, and we can lead change. It's nothing new. We have our president, who is very outspoken, our governor, who's also a great leader on this. In fact, today, Governor Brown signed SB 350 into law, which will make some profound impact. 50% goal for green energy by 2030 and so forth. So there's a whole lot to that law. But those of us at the local level have been looking for what we could do in our individual cities to make a difference. And you know, as we looked at these things, these options, and finally adopted ours in January here in Cupertino, we looked at steps that we could mandate. When homeowners sell, they must do this and that. And our friend Mark over here and others objected strenuously to anything that was mandatory. We looked at what we could do voluntarily in programs and incentives and all of that. We looked at those things that required us to make homeowners to make investments or to change our habits. Let's all conserve and put in conserving devices. And you know, all that takes time and energy and people to actually make time and space and money to do those kinds of things. Then we looked at the single biggest step we could take to make a difference in our city. We don't control car standards and a whole bunch of other stuff. But if we looked at that thing that would make the most difference, and in fact as big as all those other things we could do combined, it was consider the possibility of community choice energy. So that's pretty cool. Let's see if we could put ourselves on a carbon diet and make, with one big, bold step, change the equation on climate here in our cities by something that requires no habit change. In fact, it won't require any action by any of you necessarily at all, or any of our residents or businesses, but simply in your education on this, along with others, spreading the word to help communicate what it is we're trying to do. So that's a really important thing, and that's what we're trying to get out of the meeting tonight. When I first heard about this, it was at the Cities Association of Santa Clara County in March, April of 2014, and I learned that Marin and Sonoma had adopted this system, where effectively they had set up a government agency to compete with PG&E, not for electricity distribution and billing and all of those other services that go along with providing the grid, but specifically on electricity generation. And in Marin and Sonoma, they have substantially greener power, offering greener power for the same price as PG&E's much less green alternative. And I couldn't imagine how tiny communities, as I imagine Marin and Sonoma to be, to be able to compete with the big monopoly. And I read an interesting article that I'd refer you to from the LA Times, the 14th of June, comparing electricity rates. You begin to understand some of the dynamic that's gone on between the investor-owned utilities and the CPUC. And the table shows at 200 kilowatt hours, a typical electricity customer from investor-owned utilities like PG&E, SoCal Edison, San Diego Power, et cetera, paying 6.7% more than with municipal-owned utilities. Averaged, there's a whole a dozen of them in Southern California. And at 2,000 kilowatt hours, fully 77% more. If you compare your electricity bill with neighbors who live in Santa Clara or Palo Alto, where they have their own municipal utility, you'll see that there's a big difference in what you're paying versus them. And Palo Alto particularly is focused on becoming very green very quickly. So there's room and there's an opening created by a combination of what those investor-owned utilities have done in combination with the CPUC, which hasn't, I would argue, not always acted in the interest of ratepayers. In fact, these numbers rather amplify that and give us an opening to talk about how we could, not with a completely deregulated system as we had a decade and a half ago in California that ended up as a big disaster, but with a coordinated system working to try to move the needle on climate change. Give us all an opportunity to do things like they do in Marin, for example. If you have lots of roof space in Marin, you can build out solar to generate more electricity than you need, and you can get a check back from Marin Clean Energy. And your neighbor 2 doors down, I happen to be one of those neighbors who has a roof that's rather completely shaded by a big old oak tree, and I'm grateful for that, but I can't feasibly put up solar. I'd be happy to buy your energy from you. And so in Marin, that's possible. With the system we have today with PG&E, it's not. In our corporate yard is another example over here on Mary Avenue. We have lots of real estate that we could potentially put solar over. We've only done a fraction of it because we can't offset electricity use here at our civic center with excess capacity over there. We can't effectively trade one meter for the other unless they're on adjacent properties. And such are the weird things that have not actually contributed to really getting us green enough fast enough. And for those who are skeptical about public agencies, and I've been one at times, I will tell you that I would say anytime there's a monopoly that's not a necessary monopoly, as I believe is true with electricity generation, competition is a really good thing. And it'll shed some real light on what's going on, and eventually I think it'll change the market here as it has in Germany, where they've really been leaders in solar and in wind, to the extent that the traditional regulated monopoly now has completely opened up, and customers have much greener choices. So we're accomplishing this in San Mateo. They're working on this. We haven't made any decisions yet, but we've been studying this for a good year now, and I'm very excited to pass the mic back to our facilitator this evening, who's going to tell you more.
Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor Rod Sinks. So good evening, everyone. Again, we want to thank you all so much for coming. We know that you could be anywhere tonight, and you chose to be here with us, and we're very excited about that. We have a really great turnout, which is wonderful, and we put together a really dynamic program that I'm excited to share with you. Before we go into that, though, I want to mention that this is the kickoff of 6 community input meetings that will be held across the area, and this is our first one, so we're really excited about this, and we put together a really great program. And before I get into that, though, I want to mention a few housekeeping items, and that's that we have refreshments out in the hall area there, so I encourage you to take advantage of that if you need some coffee or some snacks to get your blood sugar up. It's about 6:45 now, and I'm sure you all have had a busy day, so we encourage you to take advantage of that. And then the restrooms are out to my left as well. And then we have some materials out there as well that I want to call your attention to. And the first one is our community comment form. And this is this document here. If you don't have a copy of that, we'll be sure to get you one. But this will be one tool that we encourage you to use to share your comments, your thoughts, your ideas with us. We're really eager to hear from you tonight. And I'm going to leave it at that. So with that, this is our agenda here for today. And we're going to start off with a pre-poll. And this is a really exciting tool where we're going to ask you to use your cell phones to place a vote, more or less, a poll, where you'll share some of your thoughts and ideas about this Community Choice Energy partnership and what it entails, and we're excited to get into that with you. So we'll go through about 5 questions or so, and I'll explain in just a moment what that's all about and how you use it and make sure we're all feeling comfortable with it. Then we'll go into an introduction into Community Choice Energy. What's it all about? What's its value? What does it mean to you as residents, as businesses, as community members? What's its value to you, and why should you care about this effort here going on? And then we'll go into an overview of our progress so far. We have, as the mayor mentioned, we've been working on this for quite some time now, a little over a year, doing a lot of research and study and analysis, and we're really looking forward to sharing what we've learned so far, what we've been able to glean from some of our other neighboring counties and cities who have taken on this type of initiative as well, and we're looking forward to sharing that. And then we're going to have a group discussion where we take advantage of the collective brain power in the room. We want to answer your questions. This is an opportunity for you to share questions, comments, concerns, ideas, new opportunities that perhaps we hadn't considered. So we're really looking forward to getting to that portion of the agenda where we hear from all of you. And then we'll do an audience post-poll. We'll ask you some of the same questions that we asked in the pre-poll, but really to get a sense of if the information that we've shared here tonight has impacted the way you feel about this effort, if you still have lingering questions or concerns. We want to get a sense of how these presentations will have changed your opinions. And then I'll briefly go into some next steps and let you know what you can expect next in our process and how you can continue to stay involved. Okay? Great. So let's go ahead and get started. We have an audience pre-poll, and this is something that's very exciting. We're in Silicon Valley, and this is the heart of the technology world, so we thought it only fitting that we apply some of that technology to get your input here today. And I'm going to ask my colleague Beth to come on up here. She's going to help me get through this. And the first step, why don't we click that next one? The first step is for all of you to take out your cell phones, okay? Everyone, let's take out a cell phone. In this day and age, we know that darn near everyone has one, okay? The first thing we want you to do, once everyone has their cell phone out, is to text to SVCCE. You're going to text that to this number, and the number is 22333. So first, you want to type in 22333. That's where you're texting to, okay, 22333. And then once you've got that in there, I want you to text the letters SVCCE, and that stands for Silicon Valley Community Choice Energy. So again, that's SVCCE. And it can be lowercase, uppercase, doesn't matter. And I want to just mention as you're doing that this room is wonderful. I love this facility, but it is a little slow on the service in here. So we're going to give you all a minute. We're just warming up. We have a warm-up question, okay? So let's not get panicked or anything. But let's go ahead and let me see. I'm seeing some heads nodding. Looks like we're all doing it. Yes?
I am on an AT&T plan, and I have no bars, no service.
No bars, no service. Okay. Okay, welcome to Cupertino, they said. We've noticed, we did a test run of this here, and we've actually noticed that we have, some phones have better service over in this section here, I've noticed. Okay, so we're just going to give you a few moments. Yes, ma'am?
Put the number first and then the letter.
That's right. You got that? And you should receive, once you send that text message out, you want to send that, and then you should receive a note that says to you, welcome to the Silicon Valley Community Choice Energy Partnership poll. Something to that effect. Okay, so I'm going to give you a few moments. Is it working for you? You could also do that, but there's no need to really do that part. Yeah, we've tried that out. So mine's working. Mine's working just fine. Let me walk around here. We're gonna help everybody get through this. Okay, so here's what you want to do. So in the 2 section, in the number 2, you want to text 233. Just in that 2. So it's as if you're texting your mom. You would say, instead of mom, it would be 22333, right? And that's who you're sending it to. Then the actual message, the message is SVCCE. Okay? Oh, I see it's working for some people. Deanna's got it. Great, great. Aaron, you got it? All right, Aaron's got it. Aaron, and let me read that message of what it should say. So what it should say once you get in there is, you've joined Community Choice Energy Partnership Session. That's what it should say. All right, that's how you know you're in there. Melody, how's it working for you?
I'm awaiting my message.
Okay, so it's sending. That's good. It's sending. It's sent. Good. So it should be coming up. Let me take a peek at that. Good. That's great. Okay. So give it a moment. We just want to get things started here. Let me walk around here, help my colleagues out here. Ralph, how do you have it?
Well,
Oh, good. You got it, Ralph.
originally it changed what I typed into a word,
Uh-huh.
and it said, it changes it to soccer.
To soccer. Yeah, so that's going to, you just want to close that one out.
How do you get rid of that?
There you go. Now send it.
Okay, all right.
Perfect. Perfect. You got it? Let me see here. Okay, haven't gotten anything back. You want to go 3, we need 3 threes on there. 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. Yeah, so write a new message. 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. 3, 3, 3. Yep, and now then you want to go SV, V, C, C, E. And now send. Okay, we're almost there, folks. Hang in there with me. Let me see how my colleagues are doing here.
As well from, it works better texting than.
2, 2, 3, 3, 3, SV, CC, SVCCE. So you want SVCCE. Let me see yours. How's it going? That's working. Yeah. So you're in. You're already in. Great. You're fine. You're fine. Yep. That's good. Okay. Hi there. You're in?
Yes.
Wonderful. How are my friends here doing?
It failed.
Okay. Let me see here. So this might not be. Alrighty, how are we doing here?
I don't know how to use this app.
Okay, let me see here. So here's what we'll do. We'll go to here.
I did.
You did that.
I did that too, and it wants me to put in something I've already contacted.
Okay, previous contact. Why don't we try just going 2, 2, 3, 3, 3. Oops. Okay, and that's it.
It wants to go to my contact.
Yeah, how do you just send a regular message?
I don't know. I've never sent one.
Oh, you never sent one. I see.
I receive them,
I
but I don't
gotcha.
send them.
I gotcha.
So I never learned how to use this application.
Okay.
And I just got this phone like a week ago.
Okay, I'll come back to you. So yeah, my colleague Beth is walking around and helping folks. How are we doing here, sir? Not enough service. Okay, well, you know what? This is what we'll do for those of you who it is working for, okay, which I saw a good quotient of us. It is working, which is very positive news. However, we recognize that at times we have technical difficulties, and what do? We adapt on the fly, and that's not a problem. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to continue with using this tool, but the other individuals who do not have access to this service, you're just going to respond manually, okay? And that way we'll still have a very clear sense of the room. And really the idea is for us to see what your peers are thinking, okay? So it'll be, in this sense, it was an infographic that would be displayed, but in this time we're going to have a real live infographic via humans, which is great too, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. Beth, the first question we have here is, this is just an icebreaker, all right? We just want to warm you up to this idea. The first question is, what type of eater are you? What type of eater are you? We have 5 options for you. The first option, A, is carnivore. Meat only, please. Meat, please, is what I like. I might respond to that. You have option B, omnivore. Who knows what that is? Anything will do. I'll eat anything. I really don't care. I'm an omnivore. That's option B. Option C, vegivore. Ooh, what does that mean? Vegetables only, please. Vegetables only. Option D, I'm a pescatarian. I only eat the meat of the sea. Okay? Pescatarian. Aaron, I think I know what you might be. Option E, gluten-free. What does that mean? Who likes bread anyway? You're not eating any bread. You don't eat gluten, you're not eating bread, most likely. So those are our 5 options here. So I'm going to ask everyone who it is working for to respond to the 5 letters. So if it's A for you, if you're a carnivore, then you would click A and send. If you're a vegivore, for example, you would click C and send. So I'm going to give you a moment to do that, and then we're going to take the pulse of my other friends in the room. Oh, it's ringing. Good, good, good. So now we can see how many people it's working for here. So far we have, oh wow, we have 15, 16. That's great. I'm so happy. 16. Okay, 16 people so far. Go ahead and take another moment. This is just our icebreaker. All right, well, let's go ahead. I know we want to have a big reveal. Beth, take it away. Wow, this is awesome. So in real time, we're able to see what's the dominant majority here. People here prefer, they're an omnivore. Anything will do, we'll eat anything. We have food out back, I mentioned that. The next option here is D, pescatarian. We have some fish eaters in here. And then we have our third option is gluten-free. Who likes bread? You don't. And then option A was only chosen by about 1 to 2 people. And I'm very shocked to see that no one here chose vegivore. Very interesting. Oh, see, that's interesting. Now, you know what? I did say that we're going to take the pulse of the other individuals in the room, but I'm going to hold off on that until question 2, when we get into the real meat of it, if you will. Let's go to number 2. That was a joke. Okay, so let's see. We have question 2. Do you think it's a good idea to create a locally controlled nonprofit to provide cleaner, greener electricity for a competitive price? Okay, is it a good idea? We put it very simply. It's a yes or a no.
And Jamila, I'll just add, you don't need to read text. You're already joined in, so you can just vote yes or no.
Okay, so in that case, as Beth said, if you are a yes, you would click A. If you're a no, you would click B and send. Okay? Excellent. I'll give you a moment. This is very exciting. Huh? Isn't that cool? Thank you. See? All right. All right, well, let's go ahead. First, let me see a show of hands. Who here is a yes? A yes in the audience. A yes. Okay, wow, we have quite a few yeses. Let me see the show of no's, please. No. We got a 1 hand here. Okay, the lone wolf. Let's see our results. And voila, what do we see here? We see that almost, not even, it's 100% of you who are using this tool said yes, you do want to have create a locally owned nonprofit. Excellent. Let's keep moving here, Beth. Let's go. Next question. Number 3. So I'm going to read this one off to you. It's a little bit fudgy here. This is, what's the most important outcome for you in creating a locally controlled nonprofit? What's the most important outcome for you? Okay, outcomes we're asking about. Outcome number A is reduce our carbon footprint. That's very important to a lot of us in the room, right? To reduce our carbon footprint. Option B is reduce prices for electricity, is what you would see there. Option C, create local jobs. That's very important to us. And then option D, other, okay? And that can just be anything else that you might see fit to ask. So those are our 4 options here, A, B, C, D. Please go ahead and use your cell phones. And I'll take your vote manually as well, because I want to get a good reading. I'm I'm hearing a lot of noises, so I'm thinking that it's working. Great. So in just a few seconds, we're going to go ahead and reveal it. Beth, take it away. Wow. So it seems like the vast majority of us here who are using our cell phones have voted for reducing our carbon footprint as the most important outcome. Would others agree with that in the room? If you chose C, for example, Ray, can I see your hand? Can you go back, Beth, one way? If you chose C for create local jobs, is that something that's most important to you? I'm curious. Not so much? What about option B? Are you really most interested in reducing prices for electricity? Okay, we got a hand over here. 2, excellent. 3 more or less, okay, some people on the fence here. So it does seem like the option A is our biggest vote getter here tonight. Let's go to the next question. We only have 2 more of these folks, and then we'll get into our presentation. So the next question is, what's your main concern? A lot of what we want to talk to you tonight about is getting a clear sense of what you might see as some of the issues associated with this effort. So we have 5 options here for you. Option A, costs will go up. I'm concerned about that. Option B, the power won't be as reliable. Reliability might be an issue for you. Option C, you might think that the service will suffer. Option D, I don't have any concerns at all. I think it's great. Option E, other. Okay? So those are our 5 choices. Take a moment and think to yourself which one pertains to you. Go ahead and log with yourselves, and I'll take your vote manually as well. Let's see here. Looks like we have quite a few people chiming in. 12 so far. Let's wait till we get to about 15. Great, great. Okay, well, let's go ahead and see it, Beth. What's the result? Wow, so the overwhelming majority, not overwhelming, I shouldn't say, A, costs will go up. That's a big concern for a lot of people here. If that's true for you, can I see your hands, please? Can I see your hands? That's a big concern. So more so on the right side of the room. Okay, I got you, Ralph. About 20% think that the power may not be as reliable. That's something that you want to maybe explore a little bit more. Service will suffer. Doesn't seem like we're too concerned with that here in the room. Is that you? Okay, that was... I'm not voting, but that might be one for you? Okay. It would be if you were voting. Good, good, good. Thank you for that. I don't have any concerns. Let me see a show of hands of that. Who in the room doesn't have any concerns? Excellent. Okay, wonderful. And then we have other, and we're going to get into what that other might be a little bit later on in our presentation. I want to hear from you on that, okay? Let's move on here. Last question here, everyone. The last question we have for you is, how much more would you be willing to pay to have all of your electricity, all of it, generated by renewable sources such as wind and solar? How much would you be willing to pay? So we have 4 options here. The first option is 0 to 5%. That's option A. Option B is 6 to 10%. Option C, 11 to 15%. And option D is don't know. Those are our 4 choices here. 4 choices, people. What do you think about that? Let's go ahead and take a moment to register your vote. Got it? Okay, good. I'm seeing a lot of smiles in the room. I like that. So we have about 10, 12 folks already. We're going to give you just a moment more. Okay, before I do the reveal electronically, let's take the poll here in real time with our humans. 0 to 5%. If that's you, can I see your show of hands here? 0 to 5. Okay, so about 6 or 8 people. Great. What about option B, 6 to 10%? Is that you? Great, so about the same there. Option C. Okay, excellent. So we're really running pretty steady here. Option D, I don't know. Fair enough. I appreciate your honesty. Thank you. Let's see the reveal. Minus, you're right. We'll add that in next time. Very good, very good. Okay, so the overwhelming majority, or I should say the slight majority, is 40% of us are around that B category, that 6 to 10%. That's how much you'd be willing to pay to have all of your electricity generated by renewable sources. Closely followed by option A, 0 to 5%. So that's really wonderful, folks. I want to thank you for participating in that. We really wanted this to be interactive and fun for you. So that was our first stab at that. I'm going to go ahead and move us into the next part of our agenda, which is our introduction to community choice energy. And what we've prepared for you is a really interesting animated presentation, and or video is another popular term for it. And that really walks you through this whole idea, the partnership, the initiative of community choice energy. And I'm just going to go ahead and let the video talk for itself. Beth?
Silicon Valley is home to millions of people, thousands of startups, and some of the world's largest corporations. We're an engine of innovation and technology. That engine requires a lot of energy. The Silicon Valley Community Choice Energy Partnership is developing a new way to buy cleaner, greener electricity. Participating communities pool the electricity demand from residents and businesses and buy power for them. It's like being in a co-op and buying in bulk. Why do this? Greenhouse gas emissions. The electricity we use in the valley creates about 1/3 of our emissions. Right now, we get our electricity from many sources. About 73% is from burning natural gas, from large hydroelectric dams and nuclear. Just 27% is from renewable sources like wind, solar, and biomass. We want to change that ratio. A new community-controlled nonprofit would buy electricity that's generated from a higher percentage of non-polluting renewable sources. An easy and economical way to reduce your carbon footprint and create a healthier environment is to increase the percentage of renewable energy sources in the electricity you buy. Here's how it works. We buy electricity generated from solar, wind, and biomass and other sources. Whatever the source, the electricity generated, the electrons are the same. They flow through the grid transmission system, get blended, and eventually you get electricity in your home or business. In the new program, PG&E will remain an essential partner. While we will buy the electricity, PG&E will continue to deliver it over existing power lines to you. And they will continue to maintain the lines as they always have. PG&E will also continue to provide customer service, and they'll continue to send bills. The difference is you'll see your electricity is now coming from your Community Choice Energy program. This type of community-based electricity buying is already successfully operating in Sonoma and Marin counties, increasing choice and competition. It's planned for next spring in San Francisco. And Bay Area communities in Napa, Contra Costa, Alameda, San Mateo, and Santa Clara counties are also considering it. Marin Clean Energy has been providing electricity for 5 years. Its light green service now offers customers more than 50% renewables at a lower cost than PG&E. Customers can also opt for 100% renewables or for local sol, 100% locally generated solar power for a premium above regular rates. Sonoma Clean Power is nearly 2 years old. It offers Clean Start service with 36% renewables at under PG&E costs, with plans to ramp that up to 50%, still at a competitive price. And its evergreen service is 100% renewables for a small premium. Customers can choose to remain entirely with PG&E, but across Marin and Sonoma counties, about 85% of residents and businesses continue to buy electricity from the new local program. And a community choice energy program can offer even more benefits to you and your community. Our program would be a community-controlled nonprofit, completely funded by program revenue, not by taxes or any city or county funds. When you pay your bill, money is used to directly benefit our local community. Program revenues are used to purchase green power at competitive prices. And we can use revenue to generate more clean electricity right here in Santa Clara County. This creates local jobs and boosts our local economy. The Silicon Valley Community Choice Energy Partnership. More renewable power. Local control. Greener businesses and homes. Scheduled to arrive in winter 2016.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that was just a brief overview to give you a quick introduction into what a CCE is all about, to share a little bit about what some of our neighboring cities and counties have experienced as a result of this effort, and how we might learn from that. So I hope that that was helpful for you from an educational standpoint to inform you a little bit more. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Erin Cook, who's going to give you a brief overview of our progress to date. Erin?
Thanks, Jamila. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight and to share in this experience of learning a little bit more about the background and the context of community choice energy as an option for our community in Cupertino and for Silicon Valley. Really excited to share with you some of the updates and the status of our program to date. If we can advance that. Do you want me to stand up there? Or? Okay, great. Perfect. It always makes me feel like I get to play a video game when I get to carry around one of these. Maybe the world's most boring video game, but just kidding, it's a beautiful slide. Yeah, as Mayor Sinks provided context for, and also as we shared a little bit in that video, essentially communities became very interested in the opportunity for community choice energy by developing climate action plans. So as Mayor Sinks mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, Governor Brown has had this very strong call to action looking at ways to reduce greenhouse gases in our communities. We have the charge of AB 32 with the Global Warming Solutions Act that's also looking for opportunities to create healthier environment and to also help sustain our communities in a variety of different means. And so a lot of our cities in Silicon Valley have developed what are called climate action plans, basically a checklist of measures, programs, projects that we can work on implementing to create wellness opportunities, to essentially to help out our local environment and to engage our residents and businesses in actions that they can take in their own lives to help reduce carbon, help save costs, and help create more of a thriving environment. So our communities teamed up actually with the county. Some of us actually teamed up with the county to develop a climate action plan template, went through the process of developing a climate action plan that was relevant to our communities, and in Cupertino adopted that in January, as Mayor Sinks mentioned. Cupertino's climate action plan included over 200 different measures, and we realized in looking at all those measures that maybe the most effective way to actually achieve our carbon goals for our community was not doing this piecemeal, but in fact finding the biggest, most impactful solution to help increase renewable energy on our grid by basically greening the power at its source, as opposed to going to the back end where we were working on all of those smaller incremental measures like working on changing out light bulbs, putting in more efficient infrastructure and things like that. Those, of course, will still be an outcome and a priority that we'll have in our community, but we wanted to look first at the source, which is where the idea for community choice energy really arose in Cupertino, as well as the other communities that are part of this initiative. So, as some of the slides in the last animation really noted, there are two very great programs that are underway in Marin and Sonoma. Also, the city of Lancaster has launched a community choice energy program, and we're finding that the program really does have proven benefits. It's been able to achieve greenhouse gas emissions reductions. It's been able to really elevate the quantity of renewable power that's part of the grid in those communities that's being served through the program. So, the last animation mentioned in Marin, 51% is the baseline for the light green option. The Clean Start program in Sonoma at 33% renewable. We think that that's a really compelling offering and something that we wanted to explore a little bit more in our community. We also have studied this a little bit further and have found that the programs that are underway are offering this at rate parity and or at price that's incredibly competitive with PG&E. There's a cost savings that's being achieved across all customer classes within Marin and in some also across Sonoma. So we thought that that was also intriguing. We know our residents here in Cupertino are very savvy. They certainly work for companies that are very progressive and are working on agendizing and achieving very ambitious climate and environmental goals. But they're also, pocket conscious. We want to make sure we can maintain our household budgets, we can prepare and provide for our families, and so cost certainly makes a difference for our community members. With that, we identified that we like to do business as smart as possible here in Silicon Valley, and that doing it alone is not always the way to move forward. And so we in Cupertino and Sunnyvale and Mountain View and the county decided that the best way to do this was actually by teaming up and working together to study and evaluate the opportunities for moving forward with community choice energy. We wanted to look at what were the risks, what were the opportunities, what other partners might want to get involved, knowing that it might not just be our 4 agencies. There certainly could be others out there that would like to get involved too and take advantage of some of the benefits that we're seeing offered in the other communities to the north that have already created CCE programs. So we actually teamed up those 4 agencies mentioned that are here on this slide. We decided that we were willing to kind of foot the bill to advance and accelerate the process and basically fund an initial study and a technical study to evaluate what community choice energy would mean to our communities. And that program is actually underway. One of the major outcomes of the initial study was looking at who those initial partners might be. And we did identify that there are a variety of other communities that want to get involved: Campbell, Gilroy, Los Altos Hills, Los Gatos, Montecito, Morgan Hill, and Saratoga, all allies in this effort. We all want to move this forward, and as such, we've actually been able to work with them to get their rate data to do a more thorough analysis as part of our technical study process to evaluate what does this really mean from a rate perspective for our communities. What does this mean in terms of real environmental benefits that we're looking at? And that requires us to dive a little deeper and to get the rate data and some of the data from these other communities that are listed here on this slide. We also knew that this isn't something that we can go at it alone. Our agencies are we try to be as collaborative as possible, and so we wanted to really open this up to our community to better understand what are your goals, what are you really looking for in terms of a community choice energy program in Cupertino, in Mountain View, in Sunnyvale, and in the county. Are we interested in making sure that we're achieving the highest percentage renewable energy? Are we interested in essentially just getting to that rate parity? We want to make sure we're mirroring PG&E prices, or do we want to be more aggressive? And that's really where we are right now, is trying to get a sense of where our community stands, what are your priorities, what are your vision for this, and that's really where we are tonight. So as I mentioned, we have done an initial study. That initial study is available on our website. That was actually this last slide. Part of our outreach is beyond certainly having community meetings, making sure we have basic information tools that are available to everyone. So that includes having our website, svcleanenergy.org, can provide you all background and context of things that have happened to date, as well as certainly emailing the staff member in your community that's supporting this effort. We're glad to provide you with any background information you're interested in. You want to see the budget study session information that we had here in Cupertino, the staff report, any of the detailed work that we've done to date, our climate action plan, plan. All of those things are available to you. We haven't posted them necessarily. We didn't want to inundate that website with all of those disparate documents from each of our communities, but that is available. On this website, we have an FAQ. We've been getting a lot of questions and finding some commonalities in those questions from folks, so the FAQ is available on this website. It also highlights event dates. This is, as Jamila mentioned, the first of 6 community meetings, so if you want to learn what's happening and you're interested in kind of getting the pulse of what's happening in Mountain View, there's a meeting there tomorrow night. So all of that event information is available on this website, as is actually the flyer that you had, or is available to you outside if you want to take that with you. So as a part of the initial study, we knew we wanted to get the information out there to folks so you could understand what we did at kind of a high level. The initial study was really just that first stab at, what's happening regionally, what are the successes we can take away from Marin and Sonoma. And then we knew we needed to do a deeper dive, which is where we are right now. We're doing more of a technical study to do a load comparison, to understand rates a little bit better, to understand the energy supply, what sources are available to us, what renewables can we take advantage of, where do we want to source those renewables, and that's also part of the community outreach process that will work to feed into sculpting and scripting some of the technical study and the development of that. We also are working on program development, and that's where your feedback really matters as well. Finally, the kind of stakeholder engagement process, I think I've talked to that at length already. And then we mentioned this, our mayor mentioned this, and also through our presentation. If the technical study concludes that this is a viable model, we would look to basically form that community-run nonprofit, which would be a JPA, to essentially serve as the foundation for this program moving forward. So we're looking at kind of evaluating what the legal documents for that would look like, what a community partnership agreement would look like, and we've been doing that with our elected officials, as well as our city managers and executives to date, having some great templates and great models, again, available to us from Sonoma and Marin. And knowing, of course, that community-run nonprofit would be, something that we would be able to take advantage of. All the revenues from that nonprofit would go back into feeding within the context of the organization itself, helping to lower rates, create new programs, new service areas, things like that, as opposed to using any taxpayer dollars to fund this type of initiative. So that effort is really underway, and we're looking forward to kind of hearing from you tonight as we work on forming or completing our technical study. After the technical study is complete, we would basically be bringing this to our council to make a decision whether they wanted to move forward in forming that JPA based upon your feedback and ideas that our community has. The next step that's required actually is submitting an implementation plan to the CPUC, which essentially is there's a template for the requirements of what goes into that. We have to be able to identify what the customer classes are, what the risks and opportunities are, and that document goes to the CPUC for final review and evaluation. Also, it includes some cost recovery ideas or requirements and things like that. Then after that, we would, in the summer of 2016, work on kind of setting up and forming the JPA, the program itself, and working more on kind of orienting customers to what the CCE program or Community Choice Energy Program might look like. And then the program would launch basically in a year from now. So that's a very basic timeline for what our program looks like and what the path ahead would really be. And with that, given that context, we're sure that you have some great ideas and some feedback and questions for us about what this program is and what it might look like. So we want to turn it back over to Jamila to help facilitate that Q&A.
Thank you so much, Erin. Let's give a round of applause for Erin. Great job. Great job in that presentation. So as Erin has laid out our path forward and an overview of the process thus far, we really want to hear from you tonight. What are some of your questions, some of your ideas, any things that you want to raise that should be brought to our attention as the technical team is continuing its research and study? We want to hear from you. So I'm going to open it up. I'm going to open the floor up. We have a roaming microphone here. All I ask is that you raise your hand and that you state your name and the city that you're from, likely Cupertino, but let's just make that clear. And go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Bruce. I am from Mountain View, although I worked at HP for a long time, including here in Cupertino. After HP, I went to work in the solar industry, and I answer questions about solar a lot. And one that comes up, particularly in the context of this, is how is it possible that clean energy can be less expensive than what PG&E is providing now? So I'd like to ask that question and also give a bit of an answer to it, because I do have a background there.
Great.
And what's happened in both wind and solar is the technologies that have been available for 30 years, like all good engineered technologies, get better and better over time. And as people make more and more windmills, more and more solar panels, they figure out how to do it more efficiently. So, you know, the price we pay for electricity is something like 18 cents a kilowatt hour as retail customers. But what the utilities pay is more like 6 or 7 cents a kilowatt hour, PG&E's normal price. But a properly sited solar system in Nevada just signed a 20-year agreement with the Nevada utility at 3.85 cents per kilowatt hour. Similarly in Texas, where they have great sun as well, 4 cents a kilowatt hour. New wind projects are in the range of 4 cents a kilowatt hour. Now, how does that work? Well, it's expensive to build it, but money is quite cheap right now. You can borrow money inexpensively, and you put these renewable resources as part of your mix. You back them up with gas-fired generation, you back them up with hydro, and all of a sudden you have a blended set of energy sources that cost less than what's out there now and are far cleaner. And from an investment standpoint, the fact that there's never any risk that the fuel price will go up is extremely attractive, because if you're building a new gas plant, you have to account for the fact that natural gas prices may double or they may fall by 50%. You just don't know. So these are actual, you know, financial and engineering answers to the frequently asked question of how can renewables be less expensive than PG&E's current mix.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. That was really great. And I see we have a lot of really astute individuals in the room, so we're really excited about that. I'm going to go to this gentleman first, and I'm going to go over here to you in the red, okay? Yes, sir. Please say your name and where you're from.
Gary Latrow from Cupertino. So I have two questions, and I don't know the answer to either one. So a neighbor of mine who couldn't come tonight had just signed a contract with Sunrun, and he's paying a fixed lease, he said $70 a month. So will any of this affect people in that situation?
Okay. Will any of it affect people who, restate that one more time for me? I didn't quite catch
Well,
that.
he has got an agreement with Sunrun, which is a big company, that for a fixed fee, there must be some limit on the power consumption he can have, but that he has his power for 20 years from Sunrun for $70 a month.
Right. Okay.
So will any of this impact him?
Great question. So his colleague, his friend has a relationship with Sunrun, a contract with them, wants to know if this effort will impact that particular relationship in any way. I'm going to defer to my colleagues here to respond to that. These are our resource leads here. They know a lot more about this topic than I do, so I'm happy to pass it to them.
So opting out, I didn't mention this in our presentation, but you always have the option to opt out of the program if you'd like. So you're automatically enrolled in the CCE program. So that, which is the way that it is in Marin and Sonoma. The opt-out rate actually in Sonoma is about, I think 11%, is that right? So very few people do opt out, but you know, if he was finding that his pricing was different or you know wasn't happy with the outcome of that, he'd always have the option of opting out of the service and just continuing with PG&E as his generation provider.
No, he doesn't deal with PG&E, he deals with Sunrun.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, yeah, I mean, we can certainly look into that a little bit further and get back to you, Gary.
Okay. The second question.
It's a good question because a lot of people are now pursuing PPAs, knowing that there's, I mean,
Well,
I drive around our neighborhoods and there are solar trucks everywhere, so, yeah.
The second question is, what is the likelihood, what is the history of people with excessive number of panels, more than they need in their home, getting paid?
So what's the likelihood of people who have an excessive number of panels in their home? how will that be impacted and in what shape or form? Before I let Aaron answer that, I want to just say that I'm sure that you all have a lot of questions, and some of which we may not have the immediate answers to tonight. I want you to note that my colleague Beth here is capturing all of the comments and commentary from tonight, and we'll be sure to get those answers for you should we not know them now. But I'm going to ask Aaron if she knows that answer.
The question was, sorry, was
Related to panels?
Oh, yeah. So if you have you have excess generation right now, the way that PG&E works is similar to a cell phone company where essentially you get rollover minutes or rollover credits month after month, but at the end of the year it zeroes out. So actually, this is very much based upon what the decision of the group will be in terms of how we want to develop our CCE program. But what's happened in some communities, Marin and Sonoma, is that they're not offering the zeroing out option. They actually do pay the customer back at the end of the year. So you can get a check.
Yes, I recently installed solar panels on my roof, and I've had to go through the whole research to see how that works. So currently, the solar panels that I've installed are targeting to replace 90% of my energy use for the next 12 months. So what PG&E does is what they call net energy metering, NEM. So NEM means each month they calculate how much energy I create versus how much I use, right? And if my estimation is correct, then at the end of the 12-month period, I still owe them for 10% of my energy usage. So that is called the true-up amount. So they charge me that amount at the end of the first 12 months, all right? So true-up, it works like that. Now, if I produce 110% of my energy usage, which I might, because since I put on the solar panels, I've also undergone an energy reduction program in the house, because it just feels good to do that, you know. So if I end up producing surplus energy at the end of the 12 months, that's called the net surplus compensation. And that rate right now is 4 cents per kilowatt hour, all right? Which is significantly below what they would charge me. But their logic is they don't want to incent me to produce excess electricity. They don't need it. They don't want it, right? So that's why most solar installers would recommend that you install less than 100% of your energy need so that you don't end up getting only 4 cents a kilowatt hour for your excess energy. Now, what I would recommend for CCE, and in fact, my question for CE is, I'm assuming that any surplus energy that I produce with my excess solar panel gets purchased by CCE, because I'm one of the sources, right? At a better rate than 4 cents, right?
Yep. That is the case. 1 cent, I'm going to let you answer that, yeah.
It's still a future program decision. Okay. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So you'll hear this, it's going to be kind of a common response, is that we have not defined what the outcome or what the benefits of this the CCE program will be. That to some degree will be evaluated in the technical study and also will be very much dependent upon what we hear from you in terms of what your priorities are. But in Marin and Sonoma, it's a 1 cent premium over PG&E right now, so 5 cents. Not to say that it's something.
Thank you for that question, sir. To my gentleman in the red, go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Viraj Raut, city is Cupertino. First, I want to thank you. I think this is the right direction to go in. And I have 2 questions. The first one is, you mentioned that if you opt in for this particular program, you get a bill from PG&E. It has a line item which says renewable energy. Since you're partnering with Santa Clara, I've been a resident of Santa Clara earlier. They have their own infrastructure to do the same billing. Is there a consideration to partner with that particular method versus doing the billing through PG&E? Because we have a captive, a functioning system out there within our partnership. So that's...
Yeah, I'm going to pause you on the first question, okay? And I'm going to get my response here. Aaron, you want to take this one?
So that's a municipal utility, which is a little different than what we're talking about. So they own their own transmission, distribution, and generation infrastructure. I don't believe they have excess capacity right now to onboard other communities. We're not really researching that as part of this process. What we're doing is looking at ways to use the infrastructure that's already here in our community, that's serving our community. So that distribution and transmission infrastructure that's PG&E based, so they'd continue to be a partner of ours, and then just differentiate the generation source. So looking to go out and do power supply contracts for additional, ideally renewables or other types of energy sources that we could bring in here. So similar to, there's commercial customers that are doing that through a program called Direct Access that would be actually similar to what we would look at here in our community.
Okay, thank you. The second question was very similar to the previous two questions. As a resident in Cupertino, how do I participate? Do residents get opportunity to participate just by generating the energy and being part of the cooperative? As the municipalities are doing the bartering for the resources or the energy that is created, can we contribute to the creation of it?
So this is certainly the first step, is just participating in this community meeting. Through the voting exercise that we're going through, that's the type of information we'll be reporting back to council when we take our technical study forward. As always, as a resident of our community, you have the option to voice your opinion by emailing our council members to let them know what you want to prioritize. Essentially, our JPA will be made up of elected officials that are representing each of our communities. So make sure your voice is heard. If you have specifics about the way you'd like our program to be shaped, I would recommend you get in touch with Mayor Sinks or again staff members to really catalog what your priorities are. We also will be doing another community meeting with the results and the findings of the technical study. Those dates haven't been set yet, but then we'll be doing basically a deeper dive into what our findings are on kind of rates and costs and environmental benefits and the things that I mentioned earlier. So that'd be another opportunity to engage. There's also an opportunity on the website. We collect comments just through that mechanism, so you can certainly log those there as well. Are there anything else? Any other options? Okay, great. And I'll give you my contact information after the meeting so we can stay in touch. When they'll be scheduled? Yeah, so in December, yep. But we don't have, do we have dates yet? Okay, I was like, do we? Okay. It's my second day back from maternity leave, I apologize. Yeah, Jackie?
So after we have the technical study results, we'll be coming back to you and sharing with you the results of that technical study, which will give us a lot more information on what options we have in terms of how much energy generation we can achieve, as well as possible rates and competitiveness with PG&E. So that in Cupertino is scheduled for December 2nd. So please mark your calendars, and we'll be sending information out on that.
My name is Dan Marshall from Cupertino. And my question is, when you say renewable energy, what exactly do you mean? Does that include nuclear? And does it also include hydro, both of which are a little controversial?
That's a great question. Actually, I'm going to let Melody take that one.
Sure. Hi, Melody with the City of Sunnyvale. I'm her partnership partner over in Sunnyvale. So as far as what kind of portfolio we will look for, that's something our consultants will advise us on. When we're talking about the term renewable, we are referring to wind and solar and biogas. That doesn't mean that the overall portfolio we have, the non-renewable portion, won't come from other sources like hydro. So hydro is a pretty common low-carbon source for energy that isn't necessarily labeled renewable by the state, but it still provides a low-carbon source. What we're being told by our consultants about nuclear is that it's kind of a non-starter conversation in California. All of the available nuclear is already contracted by the investor-owned utilities, and they have no future plans to give that up, and there are no on-the-book plans for additional nuclear at this time. So it's just not part of our conversation about the portfolio at this time.
Thank you, Melody.
So Lee McCrum, I'm from San Jose. And I'm a bit confused here. This program will not produce the energy. it won't do anything with the infrastructure for the delivery. So, and as I can understand, I don't quite know where the, let's say the financial gain is here. What do you do? You're forming a pool, essentially, I would think. And then going to PG&E, who still control the rest of the stuff, and say, we want to buy that from you at a cheaper rate. So in other words, you're doing a lot of administration, you're doing maybe negotiation, but where does the, let's say, the profit come from to run this organization?
So it's a little different than you're describing. PG&E is no longer involved in the generation side of the program. So we'd basically be going out, the JPA would be going out, and ultimately the program itself, and developing alternative power supply contracts. So looking to source renewables, looking to source other energy as part of a larger portfolio. And then ultimately that nonprofit organization would be managing those power supply contracts. So, so PG&E is still, again, the distribution and generation is still provided. So that infrastructure is still provided through PG&E, but the generation would be part of this organization.
And then the infrastructure for the wiring and so forth is still...
Correct. Correct.
Still PG&E.
It is, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll be right up.
Hi, I'm Gary Shamshoyan, Cupertino resident. So I would like to ask about, seems like the parameters, and I guess they're not all decided, but depending on where the cards fall, an effort like this can help possibly reduce energy cost for the citizens. It doesn't look like that's in the plan, but it could be done that way. It could be done to increase revenue for the city, or it could be done to minimize greenhouse gas in general, or if you play with the rates right, it could be done to actually decrease or increase solar generation here, as this gentleman was talking about. Have you decided which direction this great tool will be used?
Just one point of clarification is that the JPA would be a separate legal entity, so none of the revenues would be coming back to our organizations or our public agencies. The only thing that we would look to basically is recoup our costs for starting the program. So as I mentioned, the cities of Sunnyvale, Mountain View, Cupertino, and the county have allocated funding to do the technical study, the initial study, work on some JPA formation. And the way the programs that have worked in Marin and Sonoma, the Sonoma Water Agency actually recouped its costs for launch, which is the only money that would come back to our agency. So the revenues themselves would go either back to ratepayers, back to additional programs. So there have been some really great energy efficiency programs that we've seen launch in Marin, or they would also go towards possibly developing local renewable energy projects. So in Marin as well, they've installed about 225 megawatts of renewable energy projects, created about 1,800 jobs, $500 million in renewable energy projects locally through their program. So that is just why I wanted to clarify that specifically. I don't want to say that the group is necessarily leaning any direction right now. That was part of the initial study, was just to be able to evaluate what are the environmental benefits, what are the potential partners, what are the costs, what are the risks, and that's defined in the initial study, which is available on our website. We're diving a little bit deeper into the technical study, and again, why we're hosting public forums and community meetings is we want to understand what are the priorities of our community. Do you want us to, just achieve rate parity? Do you want us to really get deep greenhouse gas emission savings? Do you want this to be 100% renewable, 50%? What's the appetite of our community? Because we're not Marin, we're not Sonoma, we're Silicon Valley. What do we want?
Yes, I'm Chris Satterley. I'm from Cupertino, and I'm definitely a big proponent of this whole thing, but I always think it's useful to ask devil's advocate type questions. So from PG&E's point of view, I would think they wouldn't like this very much. Right now, they've got sort of two parts to how they make money. One is the transmission and distribution, but then the other part is buying energy wholesale and selling it retail, right? So we're taking this part of it away from them. And if this sort of takes over all of California, or at least all of PG&E's territory goes this way, now they've only got part of that left. So what does that mean for PG&E? Are they still going to be able to reliably distribute and transmit the electricity? just wondering what kind of thought has been given to their point of view.
Sure, sure. I mean, I think we want to, again, because they own the infrastructure, they're absolutely an asset and an ally in this process. There is a fee that is assessed to any CCE customer, so you do pay a little bit of a premium in order to participate in, not a premium, excuse me, I do not want to use that term, but there's a little bit of a fee that's going back towards PG&E for generation as part of the program. And then certainly, you know, PG&E is you know, still providing, I mentioned that, sorry, already providing the infrastructure. I'm trying to think of what.
Yeah, that's good. They stay an essential partner to the program. You're right, their business changes over time if this sweeps like the wildfire it looks like it could turn into. But their business is still cost recovery for the work that they do. And so most of their money is in the distribution. Most of the money that they collect for generation anyway goes right through to contracts. So similar to a CC&E program, this is not a huge profit top type of endeavor. But it's really about how we use that buffer that's on top of the energy pass-through contracting. Their message is that they are pro-choice. They are pro-community choice. They support it. They remain an active partner. We are setting up meetings in the coming month to go talk with them about what future program implementation planning needs to look like to help this move along efficiently.
Thank you. I should applaud Melody, who is very much like our technical program lead and has been leading this and doing an incredible job diving into the details. So any really deep technical question I will be passing on to my colleague. I'll do my best, of course, to answer as well, but I want to make sure we're getting you the answers that you need tonight. Sorry. Oh, yeah, of course.
Hi, my name is Dave Fung, and I'm a Cupertino resident. I found the video really interesting, so I hope you put that on the site. There was a lot of information there, you know, specific information about how this works in other places, which actually I had a couple questions about. I was curious about, and you may not know this, but it would be great to provide the information. I was curious about the split between the, what I believe was called the light green program and the deep green program. How many people, it sounded like most of them opted for, you know, for the 50% thing. And it would be interesting to find out that information, even if you didn't know the specifics. I was also curious, so I just recently had a solar proposal done for my place, and saw the same thing, the 90%, they were targeting 90% for the capacity of the system. So for me, an interesting decision point would be to understand the interaction of how community choice would affect the sizing of the system and you know, what I would want to get built. And in particular, you know, in my case, I just actually re-roofed my home. So I'm going to wait a little bit before I do something, but one of the things that drives the kind of both the lease and the loan programs for solar now is that there's a rebate program which currently only goes into 2016. So again, there's no way to predict what would happen with solar costs down, you know, beyond that point. But it would be really interesting, as part of the information you bring to the citizens, it would be really interesting to know how they deal with that in Marin, because they must have some statement now about what happens, you know, how do you properly size the system. So that kind of information would be really great to get, and it may be just something that can be reported out from the people who have the programs now. Thank you.
Just, I know to your first question, Melody was feeding me some info. Relative to the opt-up, we call them the opt-up groups, or Marin and Sonoma do as well. It's only about 2%, it sounds like, of customers are actually opting up to that 100% option. But again, knowing that the baseline is still 51% in Marin and 33% in Sonoma, it's still a far more renewable mix than what is available to us currently. So that's a great step forward. However, we are very hopeful that in Cupertino and Sunnyvale and Mountain View and actually all throughout Silicon Valley, if this program does come on board, that our customers choose, you know, the opt-up option, knowing that we all have made an investment in and are supportive of our climate action plan goals, and we're hoping that we can get some, you know, very competitive pricing that will be able to have a higher percentage participation in those opt-up programs. It'll also help rapidly accelerate our goals, our climate action plan goals, if we have people participate at a higher level. So. And thank you for the second question. I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. It is, and I would want to research it a little further, I think, on Marin and Sonoma, but I've got your email address. But you're right, it's great messaging and certainly something that I think folks are going to be interested in. As we've been discussing, most folks have actually sized their system appropriately anyway, so what does that mean for those customers and those residents in our communities? Any other questions? Oh, Ian.
Just a very simple little question. I'm curious if you have 100% renewable, where it comes from on a windless night.
Oh. Again, we don't necessarily know in our communities what the power mix will look like. In Marin and Sonoma, they have a kind of a diverse set of offerings. There actually is a local solar option, which is all local solar projects. In Sonoma, they also have some, I think, a few local solar projects that have been installed. We're looking at wind, we're looking at solar. We haven't necessarily defined what will be the scope of the renewables for our community yet, but Bruce, yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry. So yeah, there are other, basically the grid has other sources it's tapping into that are not necessarily renewable throughout the day, and the electrons that we're putting on the grid from renewables and wind are essentially available to us. Are you laughing at me? When they're available, but there are other basically backup resources that are our power supply. And biomass, yeah, those are other options that are being looked at.
I think we have time for maybe one more question because we do want to be conscious of your time and it's getting a little late, so.
Anyone that didn't ask a question, if not, we'll go to Min.
There's a gentleman in the back there.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Frank G. Fay. I'm a citizen of Cupertino. And I was wondering, it was mentioned that if you sell back electrical energy from your solar cells, you only get about half the amount that PG&E charges you. But it seems like there's a lot of potential here for residents themselves to invest in energy by putting solar cells of larger capacity. For instance, my electric bill is only about $20, $30 a month. So I don't even put in solar cells because it just doesn't make any sense to do so. But if they were giving me like 8 or 9 cents, somebody was giving me 8 or 9 cents a kilowatt hour that I would sell back to whoever, to some organization, I'd be just, and many other citizens would be just like one of these solar cell companies or windmill companies that are generating electricity. And there's a lot of rooftops throughout the city and throughout the county and throughout the nation that this could be done with if people are willing to do that and if there's an incentive to do that. What can be done to make it possible for me and others who like to save energy, like to get renewables going and things like that, to make that happen? I think you get the sense of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. The little bit of that, I think, links to what Min was talking about with net energy metering. There have been actually some interesting programs that have happened in other communities where they've done like aggregated solar. So you can do basically a bundled option within a neighborhood to install and then say buy power from your neighbor, or incentivize them to basically install a larger system on their home kind of on your behalf. That's just, I think, one of the incentive mechanisms that we could be looking at as part of our program. We are looking to kind of define what the community's appetite is for incentives that are either above and beyond or differentiate from what is currently being offered by PG&E. So that's one example, an aggregated solar or an alternative to virtual net metering or something like that for our community, so that I know myself, I have a lot of shade too over my home, and I wouldn't necessarily be, or it doesn't make sense for me to install solar, but my neighbor has a clear roof. So how do you kind of do a bulk buy or a bundle to incentivize folks to do that and take advantage of it to generate local solar that can be a benefit for the community? So we're looking at that. That's actually part of the technical study also, is to identify what types of incentives would make sense for our program moving forward before we would define that within the program scope. So I would just say stay tuned. Those options are coming, and make your voice heard in terms of what your priorities are. And this will be just the very last statement question. Thank you.
I'm Cherie Volkoviak from Mountain View, and I just want to know how we can voice our opinion and give you guys input on what we would like to see.
So that's a really good segue for our next steps. I mentioned a couple of them already, but that'll be part of Jamila's wrap-up in terms of how to get involved and stay involved and make sure the specifics of what you'd like to see come online to our program.
Thanks so much. So everyone, I just want to give yourselves a round of applause. Let's give our resource leads here, Aaron and Melody, a round of applause. You asked some of the tough questions here tonight, and that's exactly why we wanted to have this meeting, was to really get a sense of what some of your concerns are, what your ideas are, how we can better message and promote this program to the broader community. So this is a real learning opportunity for us. So again, we want to thank you so much for making time to be here. What we have next up in our program is we want to do a quick post poll. Okay, but as we are rejiggering that right now, I'm going to call your attention to this comment form, to the lady's question there. How can you stay involved? How can you make your voice heard? One way, and this is very simple, this is this comment form here. We ask you 3 basic questions here, and we encourage you to fill this out and turn it in here tonight before you head out the door, okay? Another way is through our sign-in sheet that you saw when you first walked in the door. It was an option to check yes or no if you want to stay involved and join our mailing list. That's our email distribution list, and I encourage you all to do so that you can stay updated, stay in the know, continue to make your voices heard in this process. As well, I want to direct you to the website, which you saw there on there, which is svcleanenergy.org. And that's another really excellent way for you to stay aware. We have all of our resources here that we showed you tonight, including our animated presentation and or video, as well as our FAQ, which is available. We have a number of other really interesting documents up there through all of our technical work that's available for you. So we encourage you, as you have time and interest, to check those out. Okay, so that's really some of the best ways to stay involved. And as Aaron mentioned, I think another really good way is just to continue to mention these ideas, to suggest ideas to your elected officials, and make sure that they know that this is important to you. This is something that you're committed to, that you're interested in, and you want to see more of in your local communities, okay? So those are just a couple of quick ways that you all can stay involved. We really do encourage you to do so. What we want to do now is go into our post poll, and we are working out some kinks to that. So before we do that one, I know that Melody had a question that she wants to ask all of you. Melody wants, we're going to do a live poll in real time. I love this. Melody, take it away.
We're going to use heavy technology here. It's called the 5 fingers, so you just raise your hand. But I heard a lot of questions, and I just wanted to get a true show of hands. How many of you are interested in more information about the kind of benefits that the current programs are offering in CCE for local on-premise, on-site, on-roof solar? We want to count. I really honestly want to count. So please keep them up. Hurt your shoulders a little bit. You'll count. I'll take this side, Jamila. Thank you. This side's good. I got 10 over here. We got 28.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what we have here, folks, is that as we know, sometimes technology is not our friend. I do love it, but it doesn't always work in our favor. So what we're going to do, we're going to transition to another approach, and that's once again our hand polls here, taking it by hand. And I have these questions committed to memory, but I'm just going to read off of my document as well. And the questions that we want to ask you, some of the same things we asked you in the pre-poll, right? The first one I want to ask you is, do you think it's a good idea to create a locally controlled nonprofit to provide cleaner, greener electricity for you at competitive prices? Yes? Let me see a show of hands. Okay. All right. Beth, I count 18 on my side. All right, 28 is a strong number for this room. That's wonderful. Thank you for that. So the next question I want to ask you, this is also a revisit of what we had in the pre-poll. And, oh, I'm sorry. The no's. Who's a no? Yeah, we're very open. I'm sorry. What's the no's? Can I see you raise a show of hands? This gentleman over here is a no? Other no's? Okay, thank you for that, sir. That's one no that I'm documenting here. Excellent. Sorry about that. Question number 2 that I want to ask you is, what is the most important outcome for you in creating a locally controlled nonprofit? What's the most important outcome? I'm going to rattle off 4 of them for you. The first one is reduce our carbon footprint. Let me see a show of hands for that. And you're only voting once, mind you. Reduce our carbon footprint. Yeah. Yeah, I'll read all the answers for you, okay? How about that? Reduce our carbon footprint is, yes, we're doing that now, sir. Reduce our carbon footprint is the first choice, okay? Reduce our carbon footprint. The second choice, option B, is reduce prices for electricity. Okay, reducing prices for electricity. Option C, create local jobs. That's option C. Option D is other, okay? So once again, let's see a show of hands for option A, which is reduce our carbon footprint. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I got 12 on my side. Great, great. Option B, reduce prices for electricity. 1, 2, 3. I got 3 over here. Excellent, okay. What about create local jobs? Let me see. 0. I count 0. Option D, other. Okay, so our front runners are option A. Did I get you for D? I'm going to go for E. Okay, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. We are documenting that. Thank you for that. Don't know. Gotcha. Okay, wonderful. Let's keep going here. We're almost at time. The next question I want to ask is, what's your main concern about something such as this, about a program that we're proposing here? There are a couple of options here. I'm going to list them off for you first. The first one is the cost will go up. Okay, the cost will go up. That's option A. Option B, power won't be as reliable. Reliability. Option C, the service will suffer. Option D, I don't have any concerns. Hold on, don't vote yet. I like that though. I don't have any concerns. And then option E is other. Okay, it's a wild card. So once again, I'm going to ask you to show your hands, or if you're a fan of option A, what's your main concern? That the cost will go up. Let me see a show of hands. Cost will go up. Great. I have 2 on my side. Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Option B, power won't be as reliable. Let me see a show of hands over here. 2. Okay, great. I have 2 on my side. Okay, wonderful. Option C, the service will suffer. I'm concerned about that. Service will suffer. Show of hands. I count 0. Option D, I don't have any concerns. Okay. I count 9. Excellent. And then the final option, what's your main concern? Other. Okay? And I'm going to quickly allow you to say what that other is, very briefly, sir. What would that other be for you?
I guess I still have the question which Bruce answered. Somehow it doesn't make sense. It feels a little bit like Volkswagen TDI.
Okay, I'm going to...
I don't understand why PG&E doesn't take advantage of this already.
Okay, fair enough. And I'll take one more. Yes?
Well, my concern would be that the potential opportunity is not used to the fullest.
Okay, great. I'm going to pause it there. Let's move on. So the next question here, this is the next question. We have 2 more, okay? These are only the last 2 questions. Thank you for hanging in there with us. The next question is, how much more would you be willing to pay to have all your electricity generated by renewable sources, such as wind and solar. And I'm going to vary it up just a little bit from that previous poll. I'm going to say 0%. How much would you be willing to pay? 0% is our first option. That's option A, 0%. Option B is 1 to 5%. I would be willing to pay, hold on one sec, I'd be willing to pay 1 to 5%, 1 to 5%. Option C, 6 to 10%, okay? I'd be willing to pay 6 to 10%. Option D, 11 to 15%. That's how much I'd be willing to pay, okay? And then lastly, option E, I don't know. I don't have any thought on that right now. I need more time to think about it. Okay, so those are our 5 options. I'm going to go back to you. Option A, if you are willing to pay all your electricity generated by renewable sources such as wind, how much of that would you be willing? 0%. Let me see a show of hands. 0%. Okay, fair enough. I count 0. Option B, 1 to 5%. I'd be willing to pay that. I count 4 on my side. Wonderful. Option C, 6 to 10%. I'd be in favor of that. 7, I count 7. 7 over here, 1 over there, great. Option D, 11 to 15%. Let's see a show of hands. You're voting once, mind you, okay? Voting once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 folks over here. Great. And then the final option, which is we encourage you to exercise this one. I don't know. That's a fair question. That's a fair response. I'm not sure. I don't know. Who has that? Anyone? Okay. Let's pause on that, okay? We're going to hold off on that just for a second. All right, so then that's that question. The last question and the final one, and this is a new question, okay, because we really want to get a sense of not just you and what you all think, although you're very important to us. We want to get a sense of your colleagues, your community members, your family members. So this is a new question for you. How do you think your friends, family, and neighbors will respond to a new locally controlled nonprofit offering cleaner, greener electricity at competitive prices? Okay, so again, that question was your friends, families, and neighbors. How would they respond to this? Do you think they would like that? We have 5 options for you. The first option is option A, and that's enthusiastically. They would love it. They would love it, okay? Don't answer yet. Think about it. Option B, they would respond skeptically but interested. Skeptically but interested. Option C, skeptically and not interested. Okay, not only am I skeptical, I'm not interested. Option D, they might respond negatively. Negatively is that option. And then option E, they won't care. They simply won't care at all. Okay, so those are our 5 options. For those of you who have option A, my family, friends, and neighbors will respond enthusiastically. Let me see a show of hands. Let me see it. Raise them high for me. I count 7 here. Okay, enthusiastically, good. What about skeptically but interested? Wow. I count 9. Remember, you're voting just once, folks. Skeptically and not interested at all. Skeptically and not interested. Option C. Let me see a show of hands of this one. Skeptically and not interested. Okay, fair enough. Option D, negatively. They would respond negatively to this whole idea. Okay, that's a fair question, sir, for a comment. Option E, and I counted 0. Option E is they won't care. They won't care about it. Okay, and I want to note this gentleman's comment here that there isn't enough information just yet. So we've documented that, sir. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so that's the end of our post poll. I want to thank you again for participating in that. And what we want to do now is just once again, just to remind you of what's happening in the later stages of this effort here. And that said, you know, as I mentioned earlier, we have 5 other meetings, okay? So if you still have questions, which I'm sure you do, as my friend here noted, that there's still some questions and comments that you want to discuss and kick around, we will have some of our staff members stick around after this meeting here, so we encourage you to avail yourselves to them and really bend their ear a bit. and make that something that you utilize. And then we also have 5 other meetings, and I'm going to mention these dates. This flyer here has it for you, but just so that you can know right now, the next meeting is tomorrow, in fact, and that meeting is in Mountain View, and that's October 8th. Same time. All the meetings are 6:30 to 8, okay? So that's just for convenience. The next meeting after that will be in Campbell on October 14th. We're very excited to be there and to go out to that community and talk with those folks. The next day will be October 15th, and that's in Sunnyvale. Okay, so that's Melody's backyard. We're going to be in Sunnyvale. And then after that, we're going to be in Gilroy on October 22nd. October 22nd. And then the final meeting we're really excited about, Demetra's backyard, that's San Martin. That's for the Santa Clara County at large. That's going to be their meeting, and that's October 29th. And once again, 6:30 to 8. Okay, so these are ample opportunities for you all to chime in, provide your feedback. We're really looking forward to hearing more from you. With that, I'm going to go ahead and bring us to a close unless we have any other comments from my staff. Yes? Please do.
Just related to the last question about neighbors, friends, relatives, and one way to get involved, because that was the final question that we had, and I think we did an adequate job answering that question. But knowing that you guys are one person that's the heart or the center of a network, and the way that we pride ourselves in operating in Cupertino through our resources, whether it's through Nextdoor, whether it's through our Block Leader program, CERT, any of the other volunteer programs, and the ways that we get involved in our community, I would certainly just reach out and say, get in touch with the neighbor, get in touch with a friend, get in touch with a neighbor that you have in another community. Share a little bit more about what you learned here tonight about community choice energy, the questions that you have, and make sure that your resources, your neighbors, your friends, your relatives are part of this conversation, because we want to make sure that everyone's knowledgeable, has the right context, the right background, and can really be part of this process moving forward. So I just wanted to kind of finalize or sum that up relative to the last question you asked. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Erin. So with that, folks, that brings us to the close for our event here tonight. Again, we want to thank you all so much for making time to be here. We put a lot of effort and energy into putting this program on and making it really productive and useful for you, so I hope that you thought it was. Once again, I want to encourage you all to fill out this comment form. We really want to hear from you sincerely, so please, before you head out the door, go ahead and fill this out. And we're going to bring the meeting to a close, and I'll take your comment after that. Thank you all so much. Thank you.